Hi, everybody. Welcome to this incredible live. And I have my dearest friend, Sarah Fabergé, sitting just there. And I am so happy to finally get Sarah on the line. And we're going to talk about all things Fabergé. And I just love all things Fabergé, as I'm sure everyone else does. So, Sarah, first of all, welcome to this. We've had a couple of live ones that we tried to do, but we're here. We're finally here.
Bob. We are here, Bob.
And right next to me up here, I have a glass of champagne, and I'm going to toast you.
And I shall do the same.
And
cheers.
Oh, lovely. I loved your idea of calling our great supporter Fabergé Fabergé. Now, I haven't even let you speak yet, but I just love that idea. I had Louis on the phone, who runs the UK Fabergé, and I just suddenly thought, wow, wouldn't that be the most amazing bottle of champagne? Fabergé. Anyway, Sarah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And hi, Bob. Yeah, all's well. Apart from, obvious technology problems, it's been fantastic through this time of COVID to be able to use technology, and normally it works, but we just had a glitch or two, didn't we? But we're there now. And yeah, very happy to be speaking to you and to talk about Fabergé and also our connection and how we met. And of course, when I first met you, I thought I bumped into Tsar Nicholas, but I'm sure that happens to you all the time. And it was right. And as you know, as we're friends, I do refer to you as Bob the Tsar, so that's quite good fun as well. But I guess we should go on to some, more serious subjects. So do fire away. I know you've got lots of questions to ask me.
Well, I suppose on the basis of my other nickname is Bobby Dazzler, the world of Fabergé, it does work rather well, doesn't it? The dazzling czar. I mean, maybe that's a word that maybe that's something we haven't found yet. Anyway, look, to everybody out there and everyone watching, this is fabulous for me. I've got to know Sarah over the last few years, and I've got to know much more about the brand. It's a brand that I love and adore and cherish, and I'm honored to be an ambassador of Fabergé, wearing, by the way, the most fantastic Fabergé watch, and I'll show you that in a second. But it's also a brand that has such a lot of history, Sarah, and it's a brand that has gone through its sort of period of time, but obviously the where it started, I mean, it went off. Well, I don't know when it sort of took off, but it seemed to take off like a rocket. So tell me a bit about your great grandfather.
Yes.
Peter Carl Fabergé. Am I right?
Yes. I mean, really, we must give a little bit of credit to my great as well. So great grandfather Gustav Fabergé opened a jewelry store in St. Petersburg in 1842. But it was his son, one of his sons, Peter Carl Fabergé, who really took the company to the stratospheric heights that we know, with the beautiful eggs that were made for Tsar Alexander and then afterwards Tsar Nicholas, and for the Romanov family. But of course, they didn't just make pieces, they didn't just make eggs for one thing. They were always primarily a jeweler. And I always see the eggs as the 50 eggs that were made are like the catwalk pieces they sent down. They were spectacular. They remain, of course, spectacular. And it's very hard to say Fabergé without egg and egg without Fabergé. But they were also jewelers and creators of timepieces and many objets, which if you're in Britain, you might regularly see one popping up on the Antiques Roadshow. They were very famous for guilloche enamel. And Peter Carl Fabergé described himself as an artist jeweler, painting with coloured stones and different coloured golds and coloured enamels, and weaving these wonderful stories into very spectacular pieces. But also, what isn't known is that there were quite some more simple pieces, and the whole watchword of Fabergé was, and is today, about craftsmanship and creativity, and weaving a story into each piece.
I think I watched this, and we haven't been able to see each other, obviously. We'll go into, by the way, are linked into hospitality. But obviously at this point, I just want to sort of talk about the history and about it. It really is. And I've been, you know, thinking more about this. I watched a program a few weeks ago on TV. I can't remember what channel it was on. It might have been on Sky or somewhere.
I think,
it was Sky, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and I still got it. I've recorded it. And it is incredible what happened and the amount of jewelers that were working in in a vast space. And as you say, making all kinds of items, and when you take the name Fabergé, like the name Cartier, like the name, you know, these are monumental names in the world of jewelry, really. And I don't know whether there's one any bigger. And of course, I've got a little doggy here, by the way, who wanted to come and see me, wanted to come and say hello. I'll show him in a minute. He's proper.
I've got a cat waiting to say hello too, and I was hoping she wasn't going to.
It's a proper. This is a proper Fabergé. This is a Fabergé dog, actually. Look, I mean, he is everything Fabergé. So, but you know, tell me. So the big thing, I think, before we get on to where you're going with, the big question is how did all the egg thing, how did this amazing route, whose was the first egg, what would you call, is it the Romanov eggs or the Tsar's eggs? Or
yes, well, the first one was made in 1885, and it was suggested that the Tsar might like to give a particularly special Easter egg to his Tsarina, Tsar Alexander, this would be, and for Maria Fedorovna. And it was very much, the first Fabergé egg is known as the hen egg. And the reason for eggs, because you might say that's rather a bizarre thing to gift, but as in all cultures, during Lent or after Lent, eggs were eaten, ordinary hen's eggs were eaten, painted, decorated. You probably know, if you go to Europe regularly at this time of Easter time of year, you will see painted hen's eggs in windows and beautifully decorated eggs, wooden eggs. And the Tsar, as we believe, used to give perhaps rather more grand eggs, but they might be made of porcelain or whatever. And so it was suggested that they might like to give the Tsarina a beautiful egg for Easter, which Fabergé made, known as the hen egg. It looks very much like a normal hen's egg, but when you look closely, it's actually enamel, so it's like a cream enamel. That opens to reveal the golden yolk. The golden yolk opens to reveal a chicken, and inside that golden chicken, we think was originally an imperial crown and a ruby pendant. Wow. But those two pieces are now missing. So that started it off. And each year, the Tsar would order either for his mother or for his wife another egg, and they became more and more elaborate. And as time went on, I think it was pretty much left to my great grandfather's company to, you know, to make suggestions, but really decide where they went with it. And they became more and more elaborate. And then Tsar Nicholas II, when he succeeded his father, he continued that tradition, and it carried on until right up until the revolution. So of course, it was important to know as well that there were, so you had the big grand eggs, which Fabergé became famous for, but as I say, they made 50 imperial eggs. They made other eggs for industrialists and business people of the day who wanted to be like the Tsar and have their own eggs. And then they made little egg pendants and all other kinds of pieces that people could, not perhaps the everyday person would afford, but certainly people could have and collect on necklaces, etc.
Yeah. And so just finish off the egg bit.
Okay. Yes.
How many eggs were made, and how many do you think, or are they all in existence? Do we know? Is there a catalogue of how many?
Well, 50 were made and delivered. There are around 7 missing. Now the 43, I mean, some out the Queen has, and some are in private collections, some are in museums, and of course, majority of them are in Russia. They went home to Russia a while ago. They were the Malcolm Forbes collection, which was in America, some years after his death, came up for auction, and just before they were all about to be auctioned, someone from Russia came and bought them all and took them back. So, you know,
Wow.
Fabergé was born in Russia, and I think its heart and its soul is Russian. It always will be.
Although Fabergé name is French, isn't it?
French originally. So family were Huguenots originally in Picardy, and then over the centuries they sort of went down through what is now Germany, and then back up and round into what is now Estonia. And then Gustav, as I said earlier, Gustav went over to St. Petersburg. My great-great-grandfather started a jewellery company, and Peter Carl then took it, you know, to those stratospheric heights. But all alongside making these 50 eggs for the Tsars and the other eggs, etc., they were making jewellery and timepieces and objets. And we can estimate, I mean, the estimates are changing all the time, but we estimate they made at least 200,000 pieces in that time, and 50 imperial.
Wow.
Obviously, they
Amazing.
could called imperial.
Yeah.
They were made for the royal family. But there were many other pieces.
Or is that, or so if they were made for royal families?
Well, don't forget at the time, the 50 eggs we're talking about were only the imperial eggs were made for the Romanov family. Now, the Queen has pieces, some eggs now, but those eggs back in the day were not made directly for her. Now, Edward VII, Edward VII was a big customer, and as we know, the royal family, the Romanov family, were related. All the royal families, and
very much,
all related to each other. You know, the Romanov family is related to the Queen's family today through Queen Victoria. So, you know, there's a lot of interconnection. And while my great-grandfather's...
Well, Nicholas and King George V and Nicholas, they were...
Yes, related, yes. And
related. I mean, they look so similar anyway when you look at them.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, then there's Bob the Tsar as well, but we'll go into that another day.
I wonder if I wonder if I've got any. I wonder, because there's 7 missing, there are 7 missing eggs.
Yes.
So I wonder, you know, instead of going to find that lottery ticket, go and see if you've got an egg under the bed. Look, that's what I want to find.
If you've got you know, if you've got an attic, or your granny's attic or whatever, or a vault somewhere, you know, go and have a look. But look, the reality is that we know, well, we can guess quite a lot of jewels. When many people had to leave Russia at the time of the revolution, a lot of things were broken up, and we have to remember that while these pieces were spectacular in the day, can I say that their popularity has grown even more over these years because of their association with you know, the life and loves and tragedy of the Romanov family. So that their value has escalated possibly even more. And back in the day, if you were fleeing and you had to get something out, you know, we know people sewed jewels into their cushions and into their clothes. I mean, the tragedy of the Romanov family is awful, because we not necessarily Fabergé jewels, but we know they sewed some jewels into their clothes.
They had all the jewels,
to shoot them.
I know. It's such a
tragic,
terrible story. I mean, it absolutely. But the other thing, the other thing that, so just finishing up the history after the revolution in Russia, Fabergé, all of the, because the items were related or associated with the royal family, I think from what I remember watching in that a lot, I think either the factory closed or something happened, and a lot of these items were sold really cheaply, like literally giveaway price, because if you were associated with that, you know, you weren't, on the side of the revolution.
You were seen, look, they were seen as, the Fabergé family were obviously seen to be on the wrong side, and aristocrats were selling, you know, it's awful. They were selling, like any refugees or people who are poor, you know, they were selling things for food and all sorts of things. But from the film that you're talking about, quite a lot of pieces were bought and taken over to America by Armand Hammer, the businessman.
Yes.
My grandfather, great-grandfather, sadly, really died a broken man in just outside Lucerne in Switzerland in 1920. He always thought he was going back to Russia. He loved his beloved Russia. Thought he was going back. Thought it was perhaps the revolution was a temporary revolution because they'd had minor revolutions before, or a minor revolution before. So that was really sad, and they left everything behind. I mean, people will ask me, have you got Fabergé eggs? Well, no, they were refugees. So no.
You've got them. You've got those 7 missing eggs. I know they're in wherever you are. I can't remember where you are.
So anyway, but they were taken over to America. Many pieces were taken over to America by Arm & Hammer and taken on exhibitions and tours of the country. So the name became quite big over there. In the meantime, some years later, and I'm winding right forward now, so a couple of his sons, Peter Carl's sons, ended up in Paris and scratched a living really repairing Fabergé pieces that were outside of Russia, because we have to remember, even prior to the revolution, that we were saying about the royal families being related to each other. So there was a store in St. Petersburg, Odessa, Kiev, Moscow, of course, and London. And it made perfect sense for Fabergé to have a store in London pre-revolution because there were Edward VII and other members of the royal family were big Fabergé fans, because Fabergé became a gift of the day. So not necessarily eggs, but cigarette cases beautifully enamelled, umbrella handles, all kinds of beautiful things, timepieces, etc. So, but of course, all of that closed at the time, First World War, and then the Russian Revolution put paid to that. So we're trying to wind forward. It's a very long story, and I know we don't have too long, and I want to
I know. I was just
about what we're doing today as well, of course. But so basically, I'll just finish the Paris story. So basically, what happened, in a nutshell, the name started to be used in America for license for perfumes and all kinds of things. The brothers didn't know about it. By the time they did, they didn't have the money behind them to fight it, and the trademark was lost in 1951 for a measly sum of money. But very quickly, once it was bought, was traded for a great deal more after that.
Well, we know that it went through it. As I said, it's been like a roller coaster ride. And the wonderful thing now is that it's back in safe hands. Well, you're there, well, I hope it's in safe hands, but I'm sure it's in and you're there every day. You work with it. You have the London offices, London, and you have showrooms in different locations. And I think
we relaunched in 2009, and we've been steadily growing the company since then. We didn't start with eggs because we wanted to reposition ourselves as a high jeweler, and we make high jewellery and fine jewellery. But of course, people are always asking us about eggs because, as I said before, we're synonymous with eggs. And in 2011, we launched a collection of eggs, and we now create eggs, egg objets, egg pendants, and egg-related jewellery, as well as.
I have an egg.
You do. Oh, you do.
I have a Fabergé egg. Oh, sorry, if I do that, if I do that, everyone's going to be hypnotized. I have the most beautiful.
Yeah, you have a heritage.
I don't know.
One of our heritage collection, but we also.
Hang on. Where am I going with that? Yeah.
Modern ones as well. More.
Isn't that lovely?
Contemporary. Yeah.
I bought that for Donna. It's absolutely gorgeous. And there are so many different, so many different sizes and different styles, and you can have bespoke eggs. And I think, you can't get away, as you say, absolutely right. You took that's a brand that everyone recognizes, and we're coming up to Easter. So if anyone out there, by the way, has a really good idea for an Easter egg, you could become a Romanov and go and buy a fantastic Fabergé egg from Sarah, or a Fabergé piece of any description. And on that note, look, This is that beautiful Fabergé. I feel a bit like QVC here, actually. I feel like, and now I feel like, so this, how beautiful is that? Oh, that way around.
That way round.
Fabergé.
Yeah, that's the
Fabergé, beautiful. And look at that.
No, we
and I think what you said was, if I remember rightly, is that one of the things, if you can see it's got a domed face. And the dome face is to represent like that egg type face, which is.
We try to put subtle references in. So, I mean, I'm doing QVC as well now, but to show you that we, of course, we're nothing without our heritage. So it's very important for us to pay homage to that and to take forward the ethos of the artist jeweler painting with coloured stones and different varieties of gold and guilloche enamel, of course, but it's also important for us not to be dusty. So we value our heritage, but we're not dusty. So to give an example, the egg that's in one of the eggs that's in the Queen's collection, our British Queen Elizabeth's collection, is the mosaic egg, which is quite often on display in under non-COVID times in the Queen's Gallery. And the art of sort of invisible setting and setting stones very cleverly. And this spiral egg, which is of course quite contemporary in its look, but involves setting the stones in such a way that is quite difficult and tricky and considered. And so it's an egg, but it's with a twist. It's a modern take on a Fabergé egg pendant. But yes, of course, we make we do egg objet, which we did one for. Quite often we can't talk about the bespoke pieces we make for obvious reasons, but we did have a gentleman who wanted one for his Rolls Royce, and we made a bespoke Rolls Royce egg. I mean, I don't know whether we're going to add some film or video into our conversation, but we can show that if we want to.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's amazing.
Piece with the spirit of ecstasy inside.
Yeah.
We also work on, particularly with our timepieces, on using really unusual mechanisms and movements. And we have our complique egg, which is the complique watch, which is taking the story from the past. So there was a beautiful crystal egg that my ancestors created, which had a peacock inside. It was an automaton, and you could take the peacock out, and the peacock spreads its wings and walks along. So
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a timepiece called the complique, and it tells the time by opening up a feather on each minute and closing afterwards. So,
wow.
You know, we take the spirit of the past, but to create pieces for the 21st century, because I think it is important to move forward and not to sit tight. So that's where we are with things.
I think is, you know, honestly, Sarah, I really could. I can talk all day about the history. I don't know why it is. I'm not really a historian. You know, I love history, but I'm much more about tomorrow. But when it's a brand like Rolls-Royce or Fabergé or whatever that brand is, you know, you need the heritage of that brand to understand where you're going tomorrow. Yeah. But I'm very much a tomorrow person. And anyway, so let's bring ourselves up to today. And then really we met through, you know, my world is hospitality, of course. So how on earth do we link the wonderful history and heritage of Fabergé and a jewelry brand to hospitality, to restaurants? And what I wanted to do, and still will do with you, is I love bringing brands that are not necessarily linked to that particular event, like hospitality event, but I like breaking the mold. And breaking the mold, by the way, that we have done, and we have that amazing picture, which we will put up when we do this, with Albert Roux, who sadly passed away last year. But we created, and you can tell me in a minute about this egg that we created with the Fabergé design for a hospitality event. And what I'm trying to say to everybody is that I wanted to create something it was the 50th anniversary of the Restaurant Association. I wanted to create a unique award, a special award. And who better to give that special award to was to the Roux family on the Albert, Michel Roux Jr. and Emily Roux side, which was an incredible honor for them, by the way, to receive what we call the Fabergé Award or the Fabergé celebration piece. And I ask you now, obviously, there is a limit to our friendship and our love and our. But yes, well, of course we can send you over a £2 million egg. Well, of course you can't. But what you did is you came up with this brilliant idea, and tell us about this idea.
Okay, yeah. So you asked me to present an award to the Roux family, which was a great honour for me to be asked as well, of course, because they've achieved so much. And I said to you, well, I'm happy to present an award, but you know, as you say, I can't give you half a dozen eggs or 3 boxes. But and they will have 1,000,001 certificates, not detracting from certificates, because we all like to achieve things, and that's a important recognition. So I hadn't done this before, but my father was, as well as a wonderful designer and gifted man, he was also, he excelled at ornamental wood turning. And through that, I know a number of wood turners today. I mean, my father's sadly departed some years ago. So I called on my wonderful friend and very talented wood artist, Joey Richardson, and I rang her up, and I think she must have thought I was mad. I said, look, I'm going to present an award, and I'd love you to create for me to do so, and for Fabergé, an egg objet in wood, telling the story of the Roux family. And I would see it, these would not be of great value, but to set a small emerald, a small ruby, and a small sapphire somewhere along the way to show the family tree. So you've got Albert, Michel, and his daughter Emily. So you have this sort of, that's the dual end of it, but that was not really the whole part of this egg. So it's a wooden objet. I know you'll show some photographs of it.
Yeah,
and
you will, yeah.
Joey working in the same way as I do between us. I mean, Joey absolutely tells stories through her pieces. So she understands the ethos that we have about making something, if we're going to do bespoke, making something completely personal. And so we looked at, well, together, but she also really researched Albert and all the things that mattered to the family. So we had the cockerel on the outside. We had Michel's library of all the books, the books depicted on the outside of this egg. We had the Michelin stars. We had all the points of their lives, the cockerel, everything on the outside. And then you looked inside.
I know.
And inside was a separate, because it's hollow inside, and you look through a part and see inside this beautiful wooden spoon, like a ladle, with some egg yolk on it. And
yes,
the handle is like a butterfly's wings. Now that's Joey's own, as an artist, the butterfly is her symbol, because she saw herself growing from a chrysalis as an artist and spreading her wings.
Wow.
That's her own story. And the butterfly had symbols of Paris. Now I'm trying to remember now, but I think it was Eiffel Towers and all kinds of things. So within the butterfly, the story of France as well was all pierced inside. So this egg is totally unique to the Roux family, with their whole life story depicted on it. But it's also an objet as well, and it was, you know, it's something that you can give to someone that really means something. And I think that's the spirit of the company, our company. It's you know, something personal.
Well, I think that, I mean, we will show pictures of it. It is absolutely a beautiful piece. You cannot imagine how anyone can create that, do that out of wood. And it's a beautiful egg with the story of the Roux. And I have a picture of Albert cuddling it and saying that this is mine. And bless him, he's not here now. And he said, you know, that this is mine, and it will then go to
Well, we
to
hope,
Michel after, you know, and
we
it was
hope
the
the
most.
family, you know, of course, we hope the family will enjoy it as well, and you know,
Yeah. He said that this is coming home with me. They're not getting it, you know, but the uniqueness, and I think that was for me where you know, started our wonderful relationship, was that to create something, you know, you can give a beautiful bottle of champagne and you can give great set of glasses and you can give all those sort of things. But when you have something that is so special, that is so individual, there isn't another one.
well, there never will
And,
be.
and
There won't
there
be
never will be another one.
not like that.
And so that was in 2019, and in 2020, by the way, it was only just over a year ago that we had the event. I can't imagine, I can't even feel that it was only just over a year ago, where we had 300 people at the Savoy. But we did, and we held the 2020 Restaurant Association Gala, and you kindly did one again for my dear friend Brian Turner, who was just in bits. I mean, literally, he couldn't speak. And then the Saturday after that, he was on, and James Martin gave it to him. We call you up on the stage, of course. We had Michelin up on the stage. We have great photography of it all.
Well, it was
and
important
Brian was.
James, sorry to interrupt you, but it was important for James to give it to him, because I think that Brian had mentored James Martin, hadn't he? And
He
so,
had, yeah.
So we were happy to create the award, but it was lovely that he was able to then say, look, you've been my inspiration. Thank you for what you've done. And here is the award. And I can describe that for you in a moment.
Well, the beauty was that Brian had no idea. And of course, James came up, and then we started to run through who was going to get it. And Brian was obviously there, because Brian is a great mate of mine and helps sort of put all the bits and pieces together for that. And he got it, and he was just, I mean, and then he took it. He was actually appearing on with James Martin, I think, in 2 weeks later, and he took it with him to the studio. And if you ever watch that particular program, you've got the egg right behind him on the fridge. It's sort of, he said, and that's my egg. Lad, you know, not that I'm very good at Yorkshire, by the way, but that's my egg. But tell me about that one. Yeah.
Yes. Well, again, when you said to me, shall we go again? And I thought, oh my goodness, we started a precedent now, but you know, how exciting to do another one for another amazing person who's achieved so much in their career. So Joey and I got our heads together again, and I said, look, are you willing to go again? and she was. I mean, it's amazing. She puts so much into her work. And so again, this time it was all about, it was very much about Yorkshire, of course. She wove, and Joey's from Yorkshire as well. So it was a really good synergy. And she was able to go right back to, I think his father ran, if I'm correct in remembering, his father ran a cafe originally. And I know he loves his sort of very traditional bacon and eggs, etc. So this was all depicted. We got some emerald dust or small emeralds to create a sort of mossy vein effect for the forests in Yorkshire in the base. And then there were all kinds of, again, you know, achievements of Brian's around the egg and his life story, and we were able to tell him all the detail. This time I said to Joey, you know, we need to think about, why don't we put a chef's hat? Have you ever wood turned a chef's hat? And she said, no, I haven't. But I said, well, will you have a go? Let's see what we can do. And so in a very sort of regal sort of way, we've got this egg with the chef's hat on the top, which was
I know.
to Brian. And then inside this time, she created a whole stack of Yorkshire puddings. So you look through and you see this. I mean, it's just, you know, it's amazing what she created for us.
I mean, it's just beyond me how she does that, you know, and it was just amazing to have Brian's reaction. And that's, you know, the significance of that, for Brian, for the ruse, and who knows how, when we ever get to do the next one, and we'll ask you, we'll let you know. But it's fantastic, and I thank you. And so that sort of brought you in. Well, I say it brought you into hospitality, but the other one of the other amazing events you did was the Fabergé sort of egg menu, or the Fabergé menu
the
with
Ritz.
John Williams at the Ritz.
Yeah, we did. Well, John Williams, another amazing, as you know, amazing chef.
Oh yeah, he is. He's proper chef.
Such a lovely man. He was kind enough to say to me, "Would you like to see the kitchens at the Ritz?" And of course, I jumped at the chance. And fascinating for anyone who's not involved behind the scenes in hospitality, just to go to these kitchens. I'm sorry, I've got the same problem as you now, because my beautiful girl has joined us as well, so you can just say quick hello to her.
Oh, there we are. Okay. By the way, your my God, it looks like a tiger. Your cat is about 4 times the size of my dog, by the way.
Yeah, she's a big girl. She's a rescue girl. She's lovely. She's like a dog. So so there we are. So we had an Easter takeover at the Ritz, and John Williams kindly created Eggs Fabergé by how he did it is just quite amazing. And I think, again, rather than me and try and waffle my way through it, because I'm not a chef, there is a film that perhaps we can show a little clip of him creating these for us. But beautiful, real eggs, and he managed to put I think it's pieces of coloured pasta, if I recall correctly.
He did. I asked him how he did it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit.
I wanted to find out.
It's a bit like, yes, he's not going to tell you. No, he will, I'm sure. But it's
He did a bit. He told me a little bit what it was, but he didn't tell me how to do it.
No, of course he won't. It's a bit like the ship in the bottle secret, I think. Anyway.
Yeah.
But amazing. And our guests were absolutely delighted, and they could then have this order a limited number of these meals for themselves, for special occasions, for their guests, for a limited time. And at that time as well, we actually had a pop-up salon in the Ritz. So we do these. We appear from time to time at certain events and venues that we feel are right for us.
Well, I have some wonderful ideas for you going forward. We'll wait and see when we can start and how we go off. And I think really to sort of finish, it's really the vision of Fabergé, locations for Fabergé. Fabergé is affordable. I mean, we talk about, more than $1 million eggs, but when you look at the jewelry that you're wearing, when you look at these are affordable pieces. And I think probably one of the issues you have is the name is so grand that whenever he said, well, why don't you get so, oh, don't be silly. Don't be silly. I can't afford it, because they all think of, something that's at an auction. Whereas, you have a not a street location, but a location in London that you sell lovely jewelry.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, look, Fabergé.com is the place to come and see what we do, but that's not all of what we do. Of course it isn't. We have a counter in Harrods in Fine Jewellery Room, so you can see the pieces in the flesh there. You can come on to Fabergé.com and see us by appointment, and that is not about, well, of course we want to make your dreams come true and create bespoke pieces, which we do. By appointment is also to come and have a look and be treated individually. We like to think that we might have a big name, but we are like a family jeweler. It's very personal. You can come and have a look, and I think people really really appreciate that experience. And people are often surprised to know that our prices really start from around £600, which I'm not saying isn't a considerable amount to think about, but it's not £600 to wherever you want to go with it. It's
sure. No, yeah. I mean, it
my thing. And my ancestors also. I mean, a lot of people don't know that particularly when times were a little less certain for them, created pieces out of copper. And you wouldn't imagine that. They created quite a lot out of silver, very beautifully. And it's again, my great grandfather always said, look, it's not about, if you want a great big stone, we can find you beautiful stones, of course we can. But we're not really about that. It's about the creativity. It's about how it's put together.
Sure.
And the story behind it, and the artistry, and the time it takes to create that piece. So it's not about
I'm just looking at this egg, you know, it's so pretty. I mean, the work just in that little piece, you know, and it is a little piece. I mean, but as you say, it's about, you know, Fabergé have beautiful watches, have beautiful, for men, beautiful cufflinks, have lovely, you know, jewelry, and the eggs get bigger and bigger, but they also start at very reasonable prices if you compare jewelry to jewelry. You know, I think you're very competitive in a market. And I think, as I said, if you like, one of your issues to overcome is for everyone to understand that you're there you know, when we are all there again, but you're, you know, and people can come and see you.
Yeah,
people can come and meet Sarah.
Well, that's not so much the point, I suppose. I mean, we have
no, but I think it's nice, you know, I know you have a team there, of course, you know, but everyone's approachable, and it's not, my goodness, you know, if I go in there, I can't, you know, I'm not going to start at 50,000, you know, I'm going to start at £600.
I think, look, again, you know, not trying to bury ourselves in the past, but my great-grandfather was an extremely approachable, humble man, considering all the things he achieved. And I think we really like to take that forward. I personally think that the days of going somewhere where, you know, you are the customer, it doesn't matter whether and you're a potential customer, you may not buy anything, that's fine. We are happy to show you what we do and tell you about what we do, and you should be treated the same as, you know, we're all equal in this world. And I think the days of customers being sort of, you know, we've all had that experience, I'm sure, in certain places in the past, you know, where you go in and you might like to buy something, but if you're not wearing the right clothes or you don't look right, you're not welcomed. That's not very good business sense in the long run. And I often think in some places I've been to in the past, and I won't name them, where you walk in and you think, I might treat myself to something. I think the people that started those companies back in the day would be disappointed to think that the people serving their customers felt that somehow they were a little bit too important or more important than the customer. Nothing, you know, whether you are selling oranges or diamonds and rubies, the customer is the customer. And I think that's very much at the forefront of what we want to do. But I think it hasn't been in some circles, has it? We all know that. So
no, I think that, look, if you were walking up if you were walking up, you know, Bond Street, then you could, and you were in, you know, looking at the jewelers in Bond Street, you could be and I have been in that situation with my wife, who took me into a shop to just make a point, and I was absolutely shaking because I thought, oh my God. But I suppose in the same way as hospitality, you know, the Ritz could frighten people to death, you know, because, oh my gosh, I don't. And quite honestly, I can tell you, you know, John, and that is the most friendliest, loveliest place, and welcome everybody. So just to sort of round up, Sarah, what is the plan? I mean, what is the vision from here for the next 20 years? What is does Fabergé want to be in new locations?
Yeah, I mean, we are, of course, we have already, I mean, we have a number of partners around the world, you know, so they stock our pieces. So of course we want to break into further markets. We want to let people know we're there, and just continuing to build and tell our story. We're looking more and more to do we do a lot of private events when we don't have lockdown. You know, we do special events for people. I think people actually enjoy quite small private events where they can have that intimacy, and we can really tell them about the pieces we're showing. So yeah, I think we're very much into our expansion, but not growing so quickly that we become impersonal. So we take it gently and slowly, and continue to work on special projects as well. But you know, we can't always talk about those at the moment. But yeah, so working with, I certainly see the future as continuing to work with hospitality in the way that we have, because food is a treat, drink is a treat. We know that, and that's become even more apparent during lockdown.
Yeah, totally.
And I think people are also keen to treat themselves, perhaps, to jewels and gifts. That hasn't actually stopped, of course, either during lockdown, because people still have reasons to celebrate, even if they can't do it in the way that they would normally. So it hasn't stopped people having babies, getting engaged, and having birthdays. So we're just, I think for the future, it's always hard to predict, but I think because we are a big name but a small company, it makes us agile and able to adapt to what the world will be waking back up to when we're all firing on all cylinders again.
Well, I think that's a wonderful, yeah. And I look, I think you're absolutely right. I think, you know, knowing you, knowing the way the company works, knowing the team, you know, it's such a big name with a, it's such a big sort of historic name, but such a lovely group that you can be together, you know, you can talk to people. I love the idea of the individual or the private events where you come to, you know, and it's just, there is no other company that I know of in the jewelry world, in that world that you're in, that will do that. I'm sure Cartier would do it, and I'm sure other people would do it. But, you know, it just seems to be so hospitable, so family, and so within the world that I'm in, which is hospitality, you know, that is what it's all about. So look, it's just been fantastic to finally have our time together.
We got there in the end, didn't
we got there, and this will be on live for everyone to see. Right. I can't wait to see you again. I've seen you, but I can't wait to be in your company. I can't wait to have one of our lunches and dinners and have you with us, and you know, all guns blazing from I think I said to everyone in any business, you know, you need to be in the starting blocks right now, because everyone's going to be going for it, I think, come May the 17th or June the 21st, whichever one the shops come into. I can't remember, but one of those two, I'm sure.
Yes, well, we're very excited, because there's I think I said to you before, in the Michelin reveal, one of our favourite restaurants got a star this year. Shall I mention them?
Yes, definitely mention them.
So I'm really pleased that my other half has just booked us into Hyde and Fox in Saltwood, which is in Kent. Hyde and Fox, lovely restaurant that we've been to a few times and absolutely love what they do. And was so pleased to see they got a Michelin star. So my other half came yesterday and said, they're open for booking. Can you do this date? I said, yes. He went back to his computer. It was already gone. So then he said, so he went back in and booked up. And, you know, of course, because we're coming out of lockdown, they've got a Michelin star. It's going to be hard to get there, but good for them. And it just
good
shows
for them, yeah.
Hard work and love of what you do does.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think restaurants are going to be, you know, I really do believe that. I mean, I know we've been waiting a long time to go to a restaurant, or to go to the pub, or to go to a shop, or to go and buy. I know, but I do think, and certainly great, you know, great news from that restaurant, and they are just going to be packed. You know, I mean, they are, and they deservedly so. And I was so pleased to be involved and to organize that event that announced those. Well, I didn't know who it was going to be, of course, but it was fantastic. And I would love to somehow, in my back of my mind here, it's already ticking away about how we can get Fabergé involved in Michelin. Wow.
Yeah, I think that would be, you know, something.
That's a good idea.
And can I say, I know we're rambling on a little here, but when you spoke about hospitality, and it's all about making people feel comfortable and welcome, you know, it's of course it's the food, but it's everything else around that. And that's the same for us too. And it is, you know, I'm always quoting her, but you know, Maya Angelou said, it's not what you did or what you said, it's how you make people feel. And I think when you said, well, where are we going with our company? I think that's what we've always envisaged with our company. You know, you want to have a successful business, of course you do. You know, you want to sell things, but it's how you make people feel that makes that difference.
Mm.
And I think
No,
that,
absolutely, yeah. Well, it's a bit like, you know, these days the chef can cook a great meal, but if the person serving it doesn't deliver it well or in a nice way, you're not going to go back there.
no,
And right now, that front of house team are the ones that need, you know, so the guy at the back making these beautiful watches or beautiful eggs, if the guys at the front don't deliver it beautifully, friendly, in a wonderful, hospitable way, you're going to go, oh my God, I don't want to buy that. I'll go somewhere else, you know.
it's a completely
So
holistic approach.
the whole lot.
That we do, just like you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, my darling. Well, it's been amazing. Finally, we've got it.
finally
We've
got
got it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you. Love
Yeah,
to all of the team.
Yeah. Cheers. All the best to you. And here's to
Cheers.
everybody.
Fernando, say cheerio.
Yeah, bye-bye. My cat's on the floor down there, but here's to everybody, and here's to health as well, and to everybody coming out of lockdown. Let's wish everybody a better year and a better future all round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's lovely. Thank you, darling. It's been fabulous to see you.
And you too. And you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.